Technical Assistance, which is in the Environmental and Energy Secretariat. And we formed the Massachusetts School Sustainability Coordinators Roundtable to give you a chance to come together and share information of help to all of your sustainability programs. And I want to thank Deborah Shepard, standing right here, for pulling today's forum together, and the speakers who have generously agreed to be here, and all of you for coming here, and Wentworth for hosting this. So, okay, all the thanks are out of the way. Let's go right into our talks, and I think you know what we're going to talk about. And I think without any further ado, I'll let Deborah say a few words, right? And then we'll have our speakers. Yeah.
Well, one more thank you. I just wanted to thank all of you for coming to what I have been as nice as I thought it would be. We have great turnout. Can you all hear me? I know, like all of a sudden it seems quiet. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to kind of crank through some of the slides here and we'll just go in for a minute. So we have kind of a jam-packed agenda. We're just following this loosely, so don't, we'll try to get to as much of this as we can. And to kick things off, I want to introduce Professor Larry Decker, who is one of the faculty members here at Wentworth and one of the longest-running advocates of all things green on campus. And he is going to give you just a quick introduction to campus so you have an understanding of what's going on here, and then I'll dive into some of the sustainability programs we have as well.
Welcome to Wentworth. We're glad you're here. My name is Larry Decker, and I'm on the faculty here. I teach in the the civil engineering program. I taught in our environmental engineering program that we had here for 10 years too. I'm the faculty representative on our sustainability committee that we formed about 3 years ago. Our president, Zaritza Pantish, has signed the American College and Universities Climate Commitment to make our campus carbon neutral, and Deborah will fill you in on where we are in that progress. Each year for the last 2 years, we've done the Recycle Mania national competition, and we're going to do it again in January. Just a little word about Wentworth. We have, basically, we're all kind of technical or engineering programs. We have 4-year degrees in engineering technology, and we've now introduced about 5 Bachelor of Science in Engineering programs last year and this year. We have programs in all the standard engineering, electrical, mechanical, computers. We also have an architectural program, interior design, facilities design, construction management. We just started a biomedical engineering program, and so the school is really rapidly changing. We have 2 master's degree programs now, and we have 2 others in the pipeline. And so it's kind of an exciting time here. And we're trying to get everybody to buy into sustainability on the campus, and so that's a little bit of where we're at. So, okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes. That's, okay, well, I had a time for that right after I do the one.
Oh.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me just fly through a few more Wentworth-related items for you guys. So this is a slide that I always like to show to all the students, just to quiz them to see if they actually know what the Wentworth Creed is. And this was written back in 1904 in the founding of the institution. And what's really interesting is under economy, they basically have the definition of sustainable development right there. So it says, we seek to use our resources wisely at all times. We accept our obligation to safeguard the earth, its resources, its life, and its energy for the benefit of future generations. So it's really kind of amazing. I stumbled upon this one day that it really is at the core of the mission of the institution. So we always try to emphasize that point on campus. So as Larry mentioned, the president of Wentworth signed the president's climate commitment. There was some student pressure back in 2007, and the student green team actually was really the driving force behind that. So they put together, basically they had everybody sign up. They brought the list to the president and said, look, this is a clear mandate from the students that we want to make sure that Wentworth is really actively participating and being a leader in sustainability. And she said, okay, let's sign up for it. And since then, Wentworth has also become a member of ASHE, and we also participate in Recyclemania. This will be our third year in the Recyclemania competition. Just this past summer, the Alumni magazine had a whole, basically dedicated itself to what is called the green issue, and they interviewed a series of alumni that were involved in sustainability. And so the quote here from President Mantic is, ensuring the planet's long-term health will take imagination, innovation, and action. As our reach continues to grow well beyond our walls and national borders, we grow ever more confident that the Wentworth alumni around the world can help answer this, help address this challenge. One of the shining star programs here at Wentworth in terms of sustainability is its recycling program, and for those of you who are sticking around for the tour, you'll get a chance to see this firsthand. Wentworth's recycling program has been around for over 20 years, and it was the pilot program for a regional program where Boston Public School kids that have special needs come in, they get given basically job training skills. And they are the ones that go around campus every day and collect all the recyclables from the residence halls, from the offices, all across campus. They bring it back to the recycling center, they do the sorting themselves, the weighing, all of that. So it's basically a self-contained system. And it's a win-win for both the students and for Wentworth, because the students get job skills, they get they get paid for what they're doing, and then Wentworth gets the benefit of having this great recycling program. So it started here and then it branched out. And it became what they call the City Cycle Initiative. So there's over 140 students all across the city that go to libraries, schools, and other areas and do the same type of recycling programs. So it's received a lot of recognition, from the city, from the state, even from former President Clinton, because it's just a great model of social and environmental responsibility. Just a little bit of bragging rights, but Wentworth's green rating on the Princeton Review is an 87 out of 100, which is pretty good. So we're very excited about that. And whenever incoming students are looking to see whether or not a campus is really serious about sustainability, this is one of the factors that they take into account. So I always like to throw this slide up there. We are a signatory to the President's climate commitment, and we are a little bit behind on our schedule. We have someone here from Second Nature. Steve is here. When he walked through the door, I said, I owe you a greenhouse gas inventory. So we just finished our greenhouse gas inventory, and I can give you guys a quick update on that. We've been working on our climate action plan here since the summer, so we're trying to fast track that because it's been delayed for a little bit, but we finally have the momentum that we need, and we have a good group of faculty, physical plant staff, students. It's really kind of multi-stakeholder process putting this climate action plan together. So this is just a quick snapshot of the emissions profile here on campus. And basically, if you look at scope 1 and scope 2, which is the gray and the green, those two bigger bars, that is the majority of emissions. So it's not surprising. It's like 77% of emissions on campus can be attributed to the built environment. So, natural gas combustion in the central plant and electricity usage. And then the bars on the top, the yellow and the blue, they actually changed color here. But the top columns are pretty much the scope 3 sources, and you see there's a lot of variability there. That is a reflection of changing methods. So it's just, I think everybody who has ever done a carbon footprint understands that scope 3 is kind of a slippery slope, and depending on what data you start with, the outcome changes quite a bit. So, as we're putting our climate action plan together, we're really going to focus on the scope 1 and scope 2 because we're very confident in those numbers. The scope 3, we're going to kind of iron out as we go because we're still working on the methods yet. So Recyclemania here on campus has been probably our most successful outreach campaign. We really partner very closely with the student green team to pull this off. This will be our third year competing in the national competition. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, it runs for 10 weeks from January to the end of March. And we actually have our own residence hall competition where we pit each residence hall against each other to see which one can recycle the most. And then we host a series of events similar to this, just to try to draw some interest and awareness on campus. And we have anywhere from 100 to over 500 students attend, which is pretty good. Last year, around 31,000 pounds were recycled during the 10 weeks. And we actually saw a 15% increase in the residence hall that won the competition. So on a pounds per student basis, the numbers went up by 15%, which we're pretty proud of. So in terms of the curriculum, we've been doing basically an internal STARS assessment. We haven't gone public with a lot of this data yet, but I've been meeting with the faculty to try to figure out where sustainability intersects with the curriculum. And on a grassroots level, there's been a lot happening because here at Wentworth they teach architecture, they teach electrical engineering, mechanical engineering. There's a lot of sustainability that's actually already in the curriculum. So far what we've uncovered is that there's at least 29 courses related to or focused on sustainability here on campus. Just this last fall, I believe, the continuing education program launched a certificate in applied sustainability management. So that's the first degree program that's really kind of centered on sustainability here. And we also have a series of co-ops and work studies. So Kevin Gibo, who is our right-hand man back there, he is our campus sustainability co-op for this fall, and he's been helping to basically run this entire event and a whole slew of other things. So he's been instrumental to this process, so thank you, Kevin. We also have a bunch of work study students right now that are doing research and development projects. So, one student wanted to put a green roof on campus, so she's looking to see what other campuses have done in that area, and she's putting a proposal together that we're then going to present to the administration to see if they'd be willing to consider it. We have another student looking at solar hot water applications on campus. And then we have a third student who's working on recycling data collection and trying to put a baseline together and really kind of getting those numbers and those metrics together as well. So there's definitely a lot of student interest in sustainability here on campus. Oh, and just a quick note, I don't know how many of you have heard of Arcosanti? Okay, so a bunch of you have, good. Wentworth, I believe every year sends students down to Arcosanti. It's basically a regional development, like a city out in Arizona that tries to embody sustainability. And they call it, I think it's architecture and ecology, or ecology is sort of the discipline that the whole thing is based around. So a lot of students have gone to that as well. And just to highlight some of what the alumni are doing here, these are some really tangible examples. So in the upper left, this guy right here, David, he's a former student of Wentworth. He's the CEO of a company that makes solar panels based up in Vermont. The other person off to the right here is working on fuel cells. And then down below, this woman runs a design firm in New York that's won a whole series of awards for basically setting out a new sustainability vision. And so the picture, what she was trying to demonstrate here was if you could tap into all the materials that are going to the landfills in New York and sort them out by material type, you could basically rebuild the city of New York just from the trash. So you see the silhouette of the Statue of Liberty there, and that's basically what she's trying to visualize. So that is it for me. I know we're going to go into Sustainability Reporting 101, but I want to do roundtable introductions. I don't know if you want to lead that or...
Doesn't matter. We just need to go around the room and say who we are. You already heard who I am. This is...
I'm Maureen Hart with Sustainable Measures. I'm Liz Tomaszewski with Worcester Polytechnic Institute.
I'm Kate Rosa. I'm a sophomore at Worcester Polytechnic Institute, and I'm a student sustainability coordinator in the region.
Jenny Eisler, Sustainability Coordinator, Recycling Coordinator at Clark University.
I'm Catherine Johnson with Triumvirate Environmental, or an environmental consulting hazardous waste company, and I do a lot of our internal sustainability measures.
Hi, I'm Erica Madison. I'm the Sustainability
Bullock, and I'm from Greener U.
John Gravlin, student at the Boston Architectural College.
Bonnie Benson, I'm with Greener U, just moved here in June. I used to be director of sustainability at Arizona State University.
Tova Greenberg with Sustainable Performance Institute, a program of the Green Roundtable.
Sean Silver with Mass DEP, Department of Environmental Protection.
John Fisher, also with Mass DEP.
Carol Waskins, Northeastern University.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. So, we'll leave this open. As we go through the presentations, feel free to raise your hand, or, if you have a question, you can definitely interrupt me. We did also try to build a little bit of time in between the presentations and at the end so that we could have open discussions. We definitely encourage that. We don't want to just be talking at you the whole time, so please tell me to shut up if I start rambling. The main reason that we're here today is to talk about sustainability reporting and sustainability data collection. So I'm going to give you guys what I call Sustainability Reporting 101. The two pictures here are of sustainability reports. One of them is UMass Dartmouth, and the other one is ETH Zurich. And I picked those for a very specific reason, which I'll get into in a minute. My slides are out of order. Okay. So for those of you who may be a little bit confused, I'm actually a consultant for a company called SustainServe, and Wentworth is one of my long-running clients. So right now I'm actually wearing 3 different hats. One is for SustainServe, one is for Wentworth, and then another is for the International Sustainable Campus Network, which I will explain later. But basically Wentworth and ISCN are 2 of my projects under SustainServe. SustainServe is a sustainability consulting firm that was actually founded 10 years ago, last month. So we're excited to say that we've been around for 10 years. We're probably one of the most prolific sustainability firms in terms of writing sustainability reports. So it's really one of the mainstays of our business. The company was founded in Zurich and then shortly thereafter here in Boston as well. So we have a smaller team here in Boston, but it's growing very rapidly as here in the States, sustainability is really kind of starting to take root. So I won't go into all of our service offerings because you don't necessarily need to know that, but we do sustainability strategy. We help to implement sustainability programs, so that could be anything from a carbon footprint to a recycling program, or just picking your metrics and figuring out how to set goals and things like that. And then what I have highlighted here is obviously communicate, because that's where sustainability reporting comes in. So we have actually helped to write or have written 70 GRI reports. I will explain what the GRI is shortly, and actually this year we're on track to kind of beat our own internal records. Usually we write between like 15 to 20 per year. We already have over 20 booked, and we're just starting the season. So I think it's just a telltale sign of how seriously, at least the corporate sector, is taking this whole sustainability reporting piece. And then over in Switzerland, we're also a GRI certified training partner. So we give these 2-day sessions where we basically teach people from within companies how to write their own sustainability report according to the GRI standards.
Debbie, of those GRI reports, what percentage is in the U.S.?
That's a good question. I don't know offhand. A lot of our clients are international companies, so some of them may be based here, but they have international reach. I would say probably 2/3 of them are over in Europe, and the rest are here.
And next time, do you repeat the question so we get it on?
Sorry.
That's all right.
So sustainability reporting, I think a lot of you are deeply in this space, so you know if you don't measure something, you can't manage it. If you don't manage it, you're never going to improve upon it. So what is the sustainability report? You know what? I'm going to move this because I don't need to keep going back and forth. Okay. So a sustainability report, as you know, it emphasizes the triple bottom line. So that's looking at the environment, the economy, and society. And what you want to do is you want to report the impacts in all of those areas caused by an organization through its everyday activities. So what are the benefits of doing a sustainability report? So there's a whole slew of internal benefits. It helps you to organize your strengths, and to identify your strengths and weaknesses, to know where your risks and opportunities are, helps you to craft a mission and vision around sustainability, set standards for implementation. It really kind of creates a reason to have a conversation internally with your employees around sustainability and tap into their energy on this topic. And it helps to improve internal communications and promote creativity. And at least in the corporate sector, it's a strategy to differentiate and build your reputation as an innovator. In higher education, that would be recruiting more students, having cutting edge research, using the campus as a living laboratory. What it means to society? Well, it means essentially organizations that do this, they have greater integrity, they last longer, they perform better. There's a greater communication between the institution and society, so it helps to facilitate shared ideas, and it, again, increases your opportunity to attract a quality workforce and quality students as well. Yep.
Quick question, do you have any data to support that previous slide that you might be able to use?
So the question was, do I have any data to support some of these comments? Let me just backtrack a little. So particularly the one about attracting students?
Well, these.
I do. I don't have them offhand, but I can send them to you afterwards. So there are, like, for example, CDP just published a report that in the corporate sector, companies that they put on their list as climate leaders essentially have better stock value over time. So that was one tangible example. In the university sector, there were actually a series of research studies done that showed that incoming students really are demanding information about campus sustainability and that it influences their decision on where they're going to go. The Princeton Review does an annual survey of college hopes and dreams, I think, and that's the one that you can Google it and see that this environmental awareness piece is really starting to uptick in terms of the criteria that they're looking at.
And CDP is Climate Disclosure.
Sorry, yes, CDP is the Carbon Disclosure Project. And that is a voluntary reporting program for an organization that wants to basically submit a series of details about their carbon footprint and how they're managing their carbon. Thank you for interrupting me. Please do that more. Okay. So to write a sustainability report, it's like having a sustainability program in general. You really have to have an organizational commitment. You need to make sure that you're going to get the pull and the participation from within the organization to get the data that you need and to implement the goals that you're setting. One really critical point here is identifying the most relevant sustainability aspects. So there's a gazillion different metrics out there. How are you going to pick which ones really make the most sense for your organization? And we call that assessing the materiality of a specific indicator. Are you using a structured approach? Is it third-party verified? Is it something that outsiders are going to recognize as a framework that is widely used? Are you setting clear and realistic targets, or are you just reporting data for the sake of reporting data? And have you set up a system to achieve your agreed-upon targets? So you could just set a target and have no way of getting there, and what's the point of doing that? And then also, another key point is reporting successes and failures. I think, you can look at a lot of corporate social responsibility reports and just see, aren't we so great? Look at all the amazing things we're doing, and they're ignoring the fact or glossing over something that didn't go quite right, or some of these lurking issues that they're not addressing. Just to kind of continue on this theme, you need to be able to manage expectations internally and externally in terms of what the report's going to mean. You need to incorporate regulatory compliance, because really regulatory compliance is kind of the baseline. If you're not in compliance, you shouldn't be bragging about energy efficiency if you're having environmental health and safety concerns. You also want to make sure that you're providing an accurate assessment of what's actually happening within the organization. So again, not avoiding the elephant in the room if there's some really big issue that you're not talking about in your report that's really relevant to the organization. You want to make sure you avoid greenwashing. You also want to engage with key stakeholders. So, this again gets at this dialogue piece where you're talking to people, your employees, you're talking to, your investors. you're talking to your students, if it's on campus, your faculty. But you're also talking to the broader community, so town-gown relations. What is the university's impact beyond its borders? And making sure that they have a say in what's happening. And then you want to make sure that you have a system, again, to kind of collect, compile, and check your data to make sure that it's consistent, it's high quality. And you want to publish a report that really informs people, so it's not just, you know, something that sits on a shelf, it's not something that just tells a nice story but doesn't really tell you the performance. So the method that we typically do is we use the Global Reporting Initiative, which is the GRI. And the GRI is the most widely recognized sustainability reporting framework. It was developed through a consensus-based process, so they have, just thousands of stakeholders that basically weigh in on how the framework is set, what types of indicators are used, and how the whole thing is structured. The GRI is kind of going a continuous evolution, so you know they publish updates to the guidelines periodically, and they're always trying to refine that process. In 2010, there were over 1,800 GRI reports published, which is a huge increase, 70% since 2008, so the numbers are just really going through the roof. And essentially, the GRI has a series of guidelines. They're all free, you can download them from their website. And it lays out a series of principles that you want to abide by as you're developing your report. It asks for profile indicators and disclosure of management approach, and basically what that means is, you know, how do you define the boundaries of the organization? What's your headcount? What are your governance structures around who's managing sustainability within the organization? And then your key performance indicators is really, you know, performance. So that could be anything from ratios of males to females on staff, to reporting your energy usage over time. There's like a whole slew of indicators that you can pick and choose from. So the principles for sustainability reporting, and this is pretty universal, not just a GRI, is under content, you want to make sure that it's complete, you want to make sure you're reflecting all the needs of your different stakeholders. If you go to their website, they basically break this down into a whole series of points, but I just wanted to touch on a few of them here. So quality, under quality they have balance, and balance again is kind of showing the good and the bad, the positive and the negative. And then comparability, so making sure that you have those data systems in place so that, you know, you through the first year you go through this huge process to collect all this information. If you don't have a structure to repeat that the following year, chances are your data is not going to look the same. You won't really be able to compare apples to apples with previous years. You won't really be able to track your performance. And then under boundaries, you're thinking about things like geographic boundaries, temporal boundaries, so what's the time frame that you're including in your report, and what are the limitations to the data that you looked at? Were there any assumptions? Was there any missing information? And being really transparent about that. So just to give you an example of how the GRI structures their performance indicators, they group them. There are 6 categories. There are over 30 aspects underneath those categories, and then there are specific indicators that fall into those aspects. So an example would be the broad category of environmental, an aspect would be energy, and then the performance indicators would be direct energy consumption and indirect energy consumption. These are the different categories. So there's economic and environmental, and then under social, they actually break it out into a series of subcategories. So those are labor practices, human rights, society. This really kind of originated around the corporate sector, so there's this whole piece around product responsibility, which isn't necessarily relevant to a university. And this just gives you some examples of the different aspects, but I think you could probably guess what some of these are. So the environmental are probably the most familiar, talking about material flows, energy use, water, waste, that sort of thing. And then under social, they, under labor practices here, it would be employment practices, labor management, occupational health and safety, those types of criteria. So this graph right here is a really quick visual way of assessing the materiality or the relevance of a specific indicator. And when we're doing this within an organization, we'll structure a series of interviews and meet with different people to get their perspectives on things. And we basically ask them, from an internal stakeholder perspective, or from what you think an outside stakeholder perspective might be, is energy consumption relevant and important? So they'll basically rank it as a yes or no on both of those two axes, and then you just plot out the different indicators. So essentially, the indicators that end up in the upper right quadrant there are the ones that are the most relevant. There's no specific place that you draw a line, but you'll basically see a cluster of the ones that are most important. And then there may be some things that are judgment calls. So, for example, most campuses are reporting their carbon footprint. So even if it doesn't necessarily rank as, internally super relevant, super material, you may want to do that just because. So there are still some judgment calls that happen around this as well. Okay, so we already talked about this. You rank it from low, medium, or high. Then you determine which indicators you want to report on. The interesting thing here is you're deciding what's important, not based off of the information that you have, but on, really how critical is this to the different stakeholders that you're working with. So you're not necessarily just reporting data just because you have data. I don't think we have to go into this in too much depth, but in terms of the different types of stakeholders, for external, we usually group it this way. So government would be regulatory related issues and people involved in regulatory compliance, and also peers and competitors and scientists and experts. So the experts would be the ones publishing reports saying, well, we can't ignore climate change, so obviously you need to report on that. And then peers and competitors would be other universities that are kind of in the same space that you guys are kind of competing for students, essentially. Internal stakeholders, so this would be your employees, not necessarily shareholders and suppliers for the university, but it could be alumni, some of these other groups. And when you're looking at it internally, you're talking about what are the risks and opportunities to the organization. Is there a specific area of expertise that your organization has? So, if it's really technically savvy and it has a lot of really good dashboard data on energy, then maybe you want to report more of that information just because it's something that's important to your core teaching mission, and you do happen to have a lot of good data around it. So here's an example. We already talked about this. I'll actually skip this because in the interest of time. So what are the basic steps to developing a sustainability report? Determine who your key audiences are. Define the key messages that you want to get out to those different audiences. Decide what format you want to do, and increasingly, this isn't just the standalone sustainability report, but what we're starting to see is a lot of social media, a lot of people breaking up this content into YouTube clips or Twitter messages or whatever the format happens to be, so that you're making it more bite-sized and more accessible to people. Organizing what material indicators you're using and making those into a cohesive narrative, into like a report chapter type format. And usually what you'll see is interspersed in that you'll have these cute little stories, case studies, highlights that again kind of create the story, reflect the culture of the organization. And then obviously there's just sort of the editing piece of writing out the text, laying out the tables. And then under GRI, whether or not you want to go for an application check, and I'll explain that in just a second. So the application levels, if you're doing a GRI report, essentially what this means is you get like an A, a B, or a C, and that reflects the level of transparency of the report. So for example, if you're doing an A-level report, it means you're really being super comprehensive. It's usually a much longer report. You're disclosing everything about your management approach, and you're reporting on all of the indicators. So that could be upwards of 80 indicators. So it's a lot of information. A B-level is sort of like a mid-level report. You're basically reporting on 20 performance indicators in different categories. And then the C-level is typically like an introductory report. So if you're just getting started in this, you might report on 10 performance indicators, and then just start to formulate what your management disclosures are going to be. Switching hats. So the International Sustainable Campus Network is one of the projects that I helped to run through SustainServe, but I think it's pretty relevant here in terms of sustainability reporting, and I'll explain to you why. So the ISCN is an international organization designed to support colleges and universities in achieving sustainable campus operations and the integration of sustainability in research and teaching. It was founded by basically a bunch of academics over in Switzerland, and they are currently sponsoring us as we're gearing up for it to become more of an independent organization. So we have some seed funding from them, and then we also have member funding that helps to build up the ISCN. So the mission is to provide a global forum to support colleges and universities and corporate campuses in the exchange of information, ideas, and best practices for achieving sustainable campus operations and integrating sustainability in research and teaching. And this is actually a picture from our conference in Gothenburg this summer, so we had a pretty good turnout there. Just to give you a quick snapshot, the focus is really on universities that want to have a global reach or really want to reflect global sustainable development. So we have a pretty good mix of colleges and universities across the Americas, across Europe, and across Asia. And that actually makes for really great discussions. Whenever we have these conferences, we have really diverse perspectives because we have people coming from different regions, different language backgrounds, different cultures, and they may be tackling similar issues but in very different ways. I won't go into all of the programs under the ISCN, but I'll talk about the reporting program specifically as an example for you guys. We also have working groups, and those are open to anyone, so you don't have to be a member. You can just basically sign up through the website. And those are open research projects looking at different campus sustainability topics. And they're developing resources, white papers, that sort of thing. We have conferences and symposia once a year. So the next one is June of 2012. And that is in the University of Oregon, so it's here in the States. It's the first one we're having in the States. And that will be focused on partnerships, so looking at town-gown relationships, corporate, university exchange, all different types of partnerships that happen with universities. And then we also have Campus Sustainability Excellence Awards that we give out every year, and those are usually awarded at the conference. We'll probably send out our first announcement in the next month or so to try to get some projects for that. So those, again, are open to any campus. It can be a project related to sustainable buildings, master planning, integration of sustainability in the curriculum, or student leadership. It's pretty broad. So how does this all relate to sustainability reporting? We have two different levels of membership. We have network partners, which is basically anybody who signs up for the mailing list, goes to a conference, joins a working group, and that's just free to the world. We also have what we call our charter members, and those are the universities that are more invested. They pay a membership fee, and we actually require them to report annually on their sustainability programs. So it's called the ISCN Gulf Sustainable Campus Charter, and what that is it's a document that lays out a series of 3 principles that we expect the campuses to adhere to. It's very similar to the President's Climate Commitment in that it expects senior leadership to sign. So in order to become a member, you really have to have the president sign this charter to say that, yes, we're going to put resources into this. It was developed in partnership with GULF, which is the Global University Leadership Forum, and they are affiliated with the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. So usually every year, though we don't drive the GULF agenda, every year in January, they talk about the ISCN, what's happening there, and a lot of the campus presidents that attend the GULF meeting will talk about the reports and what's happening so that they can kind of have their own high-level exchange of best practices. Okay, so we already talked about what the charter is. So the annual reporting, we basically formulated this around the GRI process. So we expect that the campuses will report their goals, their metrics, their initiatives, and their progress under these 3 principles. And the principles are sustainable buildings, campus-wide planning and target setting, and then the integration of research, teaching, facilities, and outreach. So those principles are actually, they're a little bit free-form. We don't dictate what indicators a campus puts under a specific principle. we leave it as almost like a blank slate template where we say, do you think this, it's up to you guys to fill this in. What have you set as your own goals? What do you consider your priorities for your campus? And then those campuses will say, carbon mitigation is really important to us, so they'll talk about that. But another campus may not emphasize that, so the flavor and the feel of these reports varies from campus to campus. So this is one quick point that I wanted to make, and I don't know how many of you guys can relate to this, but I know in the corporate world, we're experiencing sustainability survey fatigue. And I think in the campus world it's very similar too, and these are just some examples of all of the external parties or rating schemes or grades that you can get on your campus sustainability, whether it's something that you're volunteering to submit or they're calculating on your behalf without letting you know. And so we feel that doing a sustainability report helps to overcome a lot of this sustainability fatigue. Because basically you can preempt a lot of those questions by having your data aligned, having your ducks in a row, being able to answer those questions or point to a chapter in your report and say, okay, leave me alone. We've already done this, here's our data. And the example that I want to show is this campus, ETH Zurich, which is basically like the MIT of Switzerland. They did a combined ISCN and GRI report. And so we found that there's a lot of overlap between the ISCN, between the GRI, and we also, just kind of looked at the ISCN framework and quickly ran through the ASHE STARS program and the GRI indicators to see where are the overlaps in the indicators, and there's a lot. So here's an example of some synergies. So, under ISCN Principle 1, you're talking about your buildings. Broad topic would be resource use. Specific topic would be energy use, so are you normalizing that per square foot or per building typology? You can kind of set your metric. And what's related to that? So for GRI, there's 4 different indicators. You could report your direct energy consumption, your indirect energy consumption, energy savings through conservation, that type of thing. And then if you go to STARS, they have OP7 and OP8, so building energy consumption and renewable energy that you're generating on campus. So very common threads across the different reporting platforms.
Is OP operating principle?
They have different buckets. I think it's just the operations section of ASHE STARS. So for ETH Zurich, again, they had a combined ISCN Gulf report and a GRI B-level report, so that's about 20 or so indicators. And basically what they did was they took the ISCN report and made it the executive summary for the longer GRI report. So if you don't want to wade through this, much longer, more detailed GRI report, you can get, the executive version of it by reading the 10-page ISCN report at the beginning. This is just an example of an ISCN table. So typically, similar to GRI, we'll ask for like a brief description of the management approach to the different principles, and that's more of a narrative. And then we ask for these tables that the campuses will plug in with whatever goals, metrics, initiatives they think are important. And just keeping with the theme of energy here, at ETH Zurich, they identified direct and indirect energy use as important. They've set some targets to reduce energy on a percentage-wise basis over a base year. And then under actions, that's basically their initiatives. So what are all the different programs that they're doing around that to actually make sure that they reduce their energy use? And then they report for 2009 and 2010 what their performance is according to those metrics that they've selected. Yes?
Are you finding that the institutions are picking similar priority topics?
So the question was, are we finding that the institutions are picking similar topics? Last year was our first year of ISCN reports, so we have a very small pool to look through. I think we have 15 reports for 2010, and we're actually going through a process right now. Zena Harris, who just joined us in the back of the room, is doing some benchmarking from within those reports. So I'm going to say stay tuned. She should have a report out soon through the ISCN website that you guys can check out, and it'll let you know what the similarities are between the different campuses. I think there are some real usual suspects. What we talked about last week was waste and energy were some topics that a lot of campuses are talking about. And then for things like curricular engagement, it's kind of all over the place. So it depends on the topic, but we will be diving into that.
I guess as opportunities to leverage or the competitive nature of higher education institutions to kind of help do the other. So it would be an opportunity to leverage the reporting and their actions against each other.
So the question was, are we going to leverage that information to see if we can promote basically friendly competition between the different higher education institutions? You know, I don't foresee that we'll set it up in a competitive fashion, but I think our members will find it useful in terms of benchmarking, and not necessarily of the specific indicator performance, but what indicators are they choosing. And I think that's more of what the members are looking for is, you know, are we using the right indicators? Is that what everybody else is using? There's a bit of that happens, but I don't know that we'll necessarily push the competitive aspects of it. They may just do that themselves inherently when we reveal that data. So, and just in case you guys are curious, all the ISCN reports are available on the ISCN website. They're free to download, so you can go to the reporting section and see the 15 or so reports that we have from the campuses that have submitted them so far. And this, again, is just to kind of reiterate the cross-referencing across the different platforms. So right in the ETH Zurich report, they actually had a table that compared. So, you know, if you're looking at the ISCN report sections, pages 6 to 8, and you're trying to figure out where the GRI indicators, where's the data for the GRI checklist, and it lists off indicators, you know, 2.2, 2.5, 2.7, those can all be found in the ISCN report section, page 6. So this is just one kind of quick reference way of saying, well, I'm more interested in the ISCN approach, or I'm more interested in the GRI approach. You can go to this and then basically use it as an index and look to the report to see which section has the information that you're looking for. And that is it. I know I just flew through a lot of content, so if you guys have more questions, feel free to ask, and my contact information is right there. Yeah.
What are the benefits of filling out those reports as well as the reporting the ACUPA or the American College Universities?
So the question was, what are the benefits of filling out these other reports in addition to the President's Climate Commitment reports? So the President's Climate Commitment reports essentially are focused on carbon mitigation, and so it's, you know, carbon and energy primarily. There is a section about, you know, outreach and curricular engagement and some of these other broader sustainability strategies. I think the benefit of doing something like a GRI report or an ISCN report is that it looks at it more globally. So particularly for things like social aspects or economic aspects, not necessarily environmental, it makes sure that you're hitting all three elements of the triple bottom line, and it balances it out a little bit.
I want to offer a little feedback on the question. I'm from UMass Dartmouth, and we're the first American university to meet GRI hold-up reporting. And
Congratulations.
And yeah, so this is like something that's teaching at the moment. But one of the things that's been really useful for us.
We're taping this.
Oh, sure. So yeah, I'm Tom from UMass Dartmouth. And one of the things that's been really useful for us is the student engagement in doing the projects. We have a master's class, corporate social responsibility class that does this GRI report in partnership with our sustainability office, and they do this in every fall semester. And we've just sort of been moving forward with them, but not only does it give them an opportunity to be more engaged with what's going on campus and ask questions that otherwise wouldn't get asked, you're also creating students that are trained to deal with these issues later on. So it's had just really high dividends in those terms.
So, Tom, what did you do? A, B, or C level reporting?
A level reporting.
A level.
The only college that did A level.
Okay, so other colleges have done B and C?
Yes.
Okay.
This is sort of in response to Tom. So schools like Brandeis have done coursework to do the STARS report. So did you see a difference in like benefit from doing GRI versus STARS?
Well, I think actually the first benefit, the reason why GRI came first was simply because it was an opportunity to do it first, and I think that had some weight to the decision. We are doing the STARS report this year, and we're doing that within a few sustainability classes, some of the minor classes, and actually with the STARS report, because it has points and those things that sort of we benchmark more discreetly than GRI does. Trying to use that as an opportunity to leverage getting a few things done that maybe had been taking a while longer or that hadn't really been started, and so to just sort of work on getting some more credits, or taking a little more time and trying to get slightly broader engagement with students in that.
I have a question for you. What about the top management at Dartmouth? What do they think?
So what is there?
About the benefit of spending all that time to do 80 reporting factors?
Right. Well, the students, again, do a lot of the work. I personally do most of the work, or not most of the work, but a lot of the work as the sustainability office. And again, a lot of those things is data that I'd already been collecting for ECU, PCC, or STARS, or leading by example, or something.
So they don't have a problem with it.
No, they've been pretty good on it.
Anybody from this side of the room? Yes.
How, I don't know, Tom, if you would answer this, or Deborah, but how does GRA approach the curricular and academic aspects of sustainability?
Well, I mean, short answer is it just doesn't have the same weight for GRI as it does. Well, yeah, the short answer is that GRI doesn't give the same weight to what you're teaching the academics in terms of sustainability as STARS or something else would. They're a lot more concerned about like social equity as opposed to like sustainability strictly, if that makes sense. And that has a lot to do with how you deal with like HR and investment reporting and that kind of stuff with GRI as well, which are a little trickier to get done.
And I can add to that just really quickly. Not that they're doing it yet, but what we've seen with the evolution of GRI is that they're creating a lot more of these sector supplements. So they're starting to create, specified subsets of indicators for different sectors. So I wouldn't be surprised if, they have a nonprofit group now, but will they have a college and university version of that later? They may develop one which would have more specific.
That's what I've seen is that GRA is so targeted at corporate, asks a lot about products and life cycle and whatnot, as opposed to really being targeted at higher education or education in general.
Yeah, it is definitely.
So, but universities do have a product.
Yeah.
They have a couple of
Right.
products. They have
Right.
research and students.
Right. Well,
Do you want to add something?
Actually, I was just gonna ask if it was after supplement, and she answered that.
Yeah, not yet, not for universities. Should we move on? All right.
The bathroom, for anyone else who wants to know, is through those doors and then through those doors and out into the back there. If you haven't signed this sign-in sheet, please do sign the sign-in sheet. And let's move on to our next speaker. By the way, I guess we're taking a break.
People need bathroom breaks.
Yeah.
Give them a bathroom break.
5 minutes, we will reconvene and introduce the next speaker. And let's